On the barren northern plateau, where the wind carried more history than sound, there stood a station too small to be called a research outpost and too old to be called operational. It was a collection of sheds and metal-worn domes, half buried in permafrost, forgotten by budgets, and remembered only by the handful of people who once believed that listening to the sky mattered. Dr. Samuel Oren was one of them. He arrived at dusk, the sun bleeding out behind the jagged line of the world's edge. The snow around the station glittered like powdered glass. His breath fogged the air in slow clouds. He stood for a moment, surveying the battered structure that would be his home for the next 6 months. He had volunteered. People did not volunteer for Station K397 unless they were running from something or chasing something. Samuel was both. The door creaked when he pushed it open. The interior smelled of metal and dust and a faint chemical sting, old insulation degrading into ghost scent. He moved through the narrow corridor, boots thudding softly against plywood flooring. He paused inside the main dome. Here the obsolete but still functional radio telescope loomed overhead, its skeletal frame curved like a rib cage of extinct metal life. Every night, it would listen to the sky above the plateau, gathering signals too faint, too ancient, or too strange for satellites and high-tech observatories. Samuel touched the console, feeling the faint warmth through his gloves. "It's just you and me," he murmured. "And the sky. Always the sky." The first 3 weeks passed uneventfully. Samuel fell into a rhythm. Wake, check instruments, eat whatever food could be thawed, log atmospheric data, run spectral analysis, scan the stars. He drank coffee in silence. He listened to the subtle crackle of the station settling. He watched the auroras writhe in the distance like veins of electric blood. The quiet was unnatural, but in the north, quiet was culture. Then, on the 23rd night, the sky changed. He noticed it during a routine sweep, a low-frequency whisper buried beneath cosmic background noise. Not a signal exactly, more like the memory of one, a long, wavering hum, then silence, then the hum again, deeper, resonant enough to vibrate the floor. He stared at the screen. That's new. He logged it, isolated the frequency, played it back. The sound grew louder, then abruptly cut off. The scope twitched. The console lights dimmed. Samuel frowned. That's not possible. He boosted the gain and replayed the waveform. But before the hum began, something appeared on the screen. A spike, sharp and distinct like a flare of signal intensity. Then another. They formed a pattern. Not a coded signal. Not Morse. Not a pulse transmission. A heartbeat. Samuel leaned closer, breath held. The spectral map pulsed again, a deep, slow rise in amplitude, followed by a drop. Pulse. Rest. Pulse. Rest. The plateau was dead quiet outside. He pressed the headphones closer to his ears, heart hammering exactly off sync with what he saw. Pulse. Rest. Pulse. He whispered, what could generate something like that? But the truth was already lodged uncomfortably in his mind. Nothing in the sky should behave like a heart. By the next night, the heartbeat had grown stronger. He checked the cables, recalibrated the dish, rebooted the systems. Everything was in order. The pulse now came with low, dragging undertones, like something massive shifting through unimaginable distances, dragging the fabric of reality itself with it. At 3:12 Samuel froze mid-sip of coffee. The pulse changed. It became 3 long rises, then 1 short, then 3 long. He stared at the spectral graph in disbelief. A repeating pattern. His mind flipped through languages, codes, mathematical rhythms. Nothing matched. Nothing should match. Yet his body recognized the cadence instinctively. A cold crawl crept up his spine. 3 long, 1 short, 3 long. The rhythm sank into him, settling behind his ribs like an infection. When he stepped outside that night for fresh air, the plateau was motionless. No wind, no sound. Even the auroras were gone. The sky was a black sheet scattered with frozen stars. He whispered, "I know you're up there." As if in reply, the ground rumbled, so faintly he might have imagined it. Sleep became difficult. Whenever he closed his eyes, he saw vast shapes drifting through a black ocean, lit only by distant suns. Creatures bigger than continents, moving with impossibly slow grace. Their shadows stretched across galaxies. One turned toward him. He woke choking on a frozen scream. By day 28, Station K397 no longer felt empty. The walls seemed to hum. The lights flickered like eyelids struggling not to close. The heartbeat grew louder, stronger, closer. On the 31st night, he noticed something new. A second pulse, different, higher, faster, like a smaller heart answering the larger one. Samuel felt his throat go dry. 2. He widened the scan range. The pulses mirrored each other, echoes across the void. 2 titanic rhythms syncing and splitting apart in cosmic dialogue. He felt nauseous, like he was intruding. The console flickered, the lights went out, the station plunged into darkness. A silhouette passed by the window. Samuel's breath stopped. It was not human-sized, and it was not outside, it was closer. He grabbed a lantern, hands shaking, and stepped toward the main dome. The metal frame groaned, something shifted in the dark. At exactly 2:14 a.m., the heartbeat stopped. Every console light shut off at once. Every monitor glowed black. Every sound died. A silence so complete it felt like pressure crushed Samuel's ears. Then, slowly, a faint glow appeared outside. He stepped into the cold and looked up. The stars above the plateau were moving, not flickering, moving, circling, spiraling, forming a massive perfect ring in the sky. The center was a pitch-black disk, as if someone had carved a hole through the night. Samuel's mouth hung open. He couldn't breathe. The stars brightened, each one flaring like a miniature sun. The ground trembled beneath him. Pulse, pulse, pulse. The heartbeat was no longer buried in radio noise. It was vibrating the air, vibrating the snow, vibrating him. He clutched his ears, but the sound was inside him now. He stumbled backward toward the station and fell to his knees as the sky tore open. A vertical rift split the air above the plateau, stretching from horizon to horizon. Light poured out, not white light, not anything human eyes were meant to understand. It was color without name, burning without heat, illumination that did not brighten but revealed. And through that rift came the silhouette of a shape so enormous it could only be measured in distances normally reserved for continents. A limb, a tendril, a filament of cosmic anatomy. It reached down, brushing against the stratosphere like a hand testing the temperature of a bath. Samuel screamed. The rift widened. More shapes unfurled, impossible geometry stretched across biological form, angles that bent into curves that bent into dimensions that violated their own existence. It was not an entity, not a creature, not even a god. It was a star, alive, massive, awake. A living star, its radiant furnace contained not by physics, but by something older, a will that predated matter. Its eyes were twin vortexes of collapsing light, voids eating reality. Its voice was the pulse that shook the world. 3 long, 1 short, 3 long. The signal had never been reaching downward. It had been reaching outward, calling, summoning, and now the call was answered. Because rising from behind the mountains, impossibly fast for something so massive, came another shape, smaller but still monstrous. The second pulse, the answering heart. Samuel tried to crawl back toward the station, but his limbs barely responded. The ground beneath him cracked, fissures radiating out like veins. The 2 titanic beings drifted toward one another, as if magnetized by ancient purpose. The sky glowed, the world trembled, the plateau shook like a trapped animal. The beings did not collide, they intertwined, like 2 strands of cosmic DNA knotting together. And the moment their forms made contact, Samuel's vision shattered. He was no longer on the plateau. He hung in the void, weightless, bodiless, drifting through memory not his own. He saw a universe older than the one humans knew. A primordial place where gravity had not yet learned its laws, and stars were not celestial furnaces but living minds. These beings had shaped galaxies with their movements, weaved dark matter into scaffolding for creation, sang light into existence. They did not speak in languages. They did not communicate in thought. They communicated in pulse. 3 long, 1 short, 3 long. The heartbeat pattern was ancient, a binding hymn between stellar titans, a call to awaken, migrate, merge, separate, consume, birth. Samuel saw civilizations worshipping them, saw planets built in their shadows, saw solar systems ripped apart by their slow exhale. He saw their downfall, not an extinction, but a deliberate slumber, a self-imposed death-like sleep buried across distant worlds, waiting for the pulse, waiting for the sky to open again. His human mind cracked, screamed, shattered. He was thrown back into his own body, and the world was ending. The colossal beings drifted toward the plateau, merging their forms like molten galaxies folding into each other. Their combined pulse became unbearably loud, vibrations shaking snow from distant cliffs. Samuel crawled toward the station. He didn't know why. Instinct, hope, denial. Inside, The monitors had turned on by themselves, glowing with symbols that bent in on themselves like self-consuming equations. The console speakers emitted the pulse. 3 long, 1 short, 3 long, then a fourth pattern. Not long, not short, a stuttering, broken sound like a skipped beat. The beings in the sky froze. Samuel felt the air thin, pressure dropping violently. The beings' forms spasmed, their luminous tendrils writhing like dying suns. The rift above them flickered. Something was wrong. The pulse repeated. Broken. Asymmetrical. Wrong. Samuel realized with horror, they weren't awakening, they were malfunctioning. Whatever had kept them dormant for eons, the cosmic sleep that held them, was breaking imperfectly. Their reanimation was incomplete, corrupted, fractured. They were half awake, half alive, half starved, and their hunger was older than galaxies. The smaller being convulsed, and a beam of nameless color speared across the plateau, vaporizing miles of ice in seconds. Snow turned to steam. The air ignited without flame. Samuel covered his face, screaming as light burned through his eyelids. Another beam, another. The larger being recoiled, tendrils flailing, slashing through clouds that evaporated instantly. The rift cracked like glass. Samuel felt gravity tilt and twist. He clung to the station doorway as the sky bent inward, as if the universe itself were caving. The pulse collapsed into chaos. No rhythm, no structure, a heart dying. But then, everything went silent. The rift snapped shut like a wound clotting. The sky went dark, the beings vanished. No explosion, no fadeaway. Just gone. The heartbeat ended. The world went still. And Samuel collapsed into the snow, sobbing until he lost consciousness. He woke 3 days later. The snow around him had melted into a perfect circle, 10 meters wide, as if he had slept inside the radiance of a different sun. The station remained intact but warped, metal sagging like wax. The sky looked normal, too normal. Samuel staggered inside. Every monitor displayed the same message, recording saved. He played it back. The screen showed the star beings in full, impossible clarity, drifting, merging, tearing the sky, breaking apart, their death throes, their hunger, their disappearance. He watched it all, again and again and again. He didn't know how long he replayed it, maybe hours, maybe days. But he noticed something new each time. The broken pulse, the corrupted signal. It hadn't been random, it wasn't malfunction, it was interference. Something else had sent it, something older than the star beings, something powerful enough to disrupt their revival, something still out there, something watching. And at the end of the recording, a frame he hadn't noticed before, he saw a shape behind the rift. Darker than space, bigger than stars, still, waiting. Its pulse was steady. 4 long, 2 short, 4 long, a different rhythm. A different being, not awakening, not emerging, calling still. The last entry in Samuel's personal log was written in trembling handwriting. It read, "I understand now. The plateau was not chosen at random. The signals were not meant for us. We were just close enough to hear them. The 2 that awoke were not gods. They were children. The real one is still sleeping, and the call is growing stronger. We did not witness their arrival. We witnessed the warning. Something bigger is coming. Something the stars themselves fear. Something that taught suns how to be alive. It is using the sky to speak to itself across dead eons. And now I hear it too. I think it knows I'm listening." The final line of his log was the last thing he ever wrote. "When it wakes, I don't think it will bother to open the sky. It will open us." Samuel was never found, only the recording remained. And in the background, beneath the static, beneath the hum, beneath the rhythm of the dying heartbeat, listeners swear they can hear a deeper pulse. Slow, heavy, ancient, 4 long, 2 short, 4 long, still calling, still waiting, still coming.